All right, folks, it's time for World Politics. We'll see if other folks join us. It might be an abbreviated version of World Politics, but Trump says he will meet Putin in Hungary for Ukraine talks after a very productive call. Trump says he and Putin will hold a second summit on Ukraine in Budapest, and it is definitely looking like he is thinking that he might be able to bring peace in that area as well. So, President plans meeting with Putin to discuss an end to the war on Ukraine, and apparently he's also trying to reframe his visit with Zelensky on tomorrow as well. So definitely that is something that people are talking about as well. And as we said earlier this morning, India cast doubt on Donald Trump's claim that Narendra Modi will stop buying Russian oil. So India cast doubt as Trump says Modi pledged to stop buying Russian oil, and India delicately counters Trump's claim it will drop Russian oil. And some folks, including those at Al Jazeera, are asking, can Trump force India to give up buying Russian oil? And M15 operating in new era of terror and state threats, it says their chief. So M15 chief frustrated over collapse of China's spy case, a new era, UK facing rising threats from state actors as well as terrorists, says the M15 chief. So the M15 chief is frustrated at the failure to put man accused of spying for China on trial. And the French government nearly survived a no confidence vote. French Prime Minister Lecornu escapes the first no confidence vote after major concessions and all along those lines. So France steps back from the brink as Parliament spares the Prime Minister for now. Israel and Hamas are trading accusations as tensions rise over hostages remain. Chikli in the Jerusalem Post says Hamas disarms or will face a new Israeli assault. And Israel and Hamas trade blame over truce violation. Rafah border reopening eyed, but no date set. Israel threatens to resume war as Hamas slowly returns hostages' bodies. And Hamas says it can't find dead hostages as Israel pushes back. EU is proposing a flagship defense project to counter drones and protect the eastern border. EU says a 2027 target for anti-drone system to defend against Russia. Europe's most important startups are in Ukraine, and EU to unveil drone defense plan to counter the Russian threat. And France and Britain are refining plans at UN for Gaza force resolution, and the U.S. forges ahead on Gaza deal amid disputes, clashes, and execution. Reports say Pakistan, Azerbaijan, and Indonesia likely is to send troops for Gaza stabilization force. So focus on peace process turning to demilitarizing Gaza, Trump administration advisors are saying. And Yemen's Houthis say the military chief of staff Garmari was killed. So Yemen's Houthis are saying the military chief killed as Israel claims responsibility for that. Israel says Houthis dealt severe blow with the military chief being killed. And definitely that is something that is continuing to stay in the news as well. Israel's bright, exuberant, imperfect day, 2 years after its worst, and everything like that. So Trump declares the end of the Israel-Hamas war, but experts see the hard work as just beginning. So that is something that folks are talking about as well when it comes to world politics. And Pakistan and Afghanistan announced ceasefire after the deadliest clashes in years. The man behind Pakistan's deadly enemy, Afghanistan, is what was being reported in NTV. And new violence on Pakistan-Afghan borders kills more than a dozen civilians and troops. Pakistan says it's ready for talks with Afghanistan. Kabul residents recall airstrike shock. And Doctors Without Borders, as I was saying earlier, at the end of the World Edition, has permanently closed its emergency center in Haiti's capital. And a Madagascar coup leader says he will be sworn in as president as the African Union looks like it's doing some suspending of activities as well. So Michael Randerian Arena is Madagascar's new military ruler. Army colonel plans to lead Madagascar after coup ousted the civilian president. So definitely that is something that folks are talking about. And they're also talking about the Catholic Church must do more to help sexual abuse survivors and hold church leaders to account. That was actually a report that came out of the Vatican and everything. So the Vatican report says clergy sex abuse victims need reparations and tangible sanctions to heal. So Catholic Church is filling abuse victims, the Vatican panel said, and the protection of minors. Second report proposes restorative measures against abuse. So that is something that folks are talking about as well. And Rael Odinga, who is definitely somebody champion of Kenyan democracy and a former prime minister, has died at the age of, I believe he was in his 80s, but they said Rael Odinga's body, at least three dead after Kenyan police opened fire to disperse mourners. And Kenyan police fired mourners, and two die as violence erupts at the viewing of the body of the ex-premier. So definitely that is something going on in that way as well. And ships accused of stealing Ukrainian grain linked to Assad regime front. A secret fleet of ghost ships moving Russian oil could soon enter Trump's crosshairs. So a shadow fleet of oil tankers aids Russia in the war with Ukraine. And Ukrainian intelligence names 139 vessels and 142 captains involved in transporting oil and stolen Ukrainian items as well. And Israel bars Turkey from entering Gaza until hostages return. So Israel to allow Turkish rescue workers into Gaza, and Turkey puts ex-disaster chief in charge of Gaza aid inside of a big no rolls. Turkish disaster relief experts says helping to locate bodies of hostages in Gaza. And Australia's rainforests are releasing more carbon than they absorb, is what scientists are warning. So Australian tropical rainforest trees switching world first from carbon sink to emission source. And above ground biomass in Australian tropical forest now a net carbon source. One of Earth's most vital carbon sinks is faltering. Can we sink it? And Syria's interim president visits Putin in Moscow for first meeting since the fall of the Assad regime, and that was on yesterday. Syria's president promises reset in first meeting with Vladimir Putin and all along those lines. So Syria's new leaders are talking to Russia, a former enemy, and all along those lines. And some people are even asking who were the Assad regime's top enforcers in Syria. Inside the reporting on Assad top officials who fled Syria. The Vanishing Act, how Assad top henchmen fled Syria and justice. So definitely lots going on in the world of politics, and young people around the world are leading protests against their government. Gen Z protesters lead a global wave of generational discontent. And the Gen Z movement, this is why we're risking our lives to protest. And some people are asking, why are Asia's youth so angry, and all along those lines. So I'm going to bring in Sasha Sar. He's with me today. We might be doing, like I said earlier, an abbreviated 30-minute show as opposed to the hour one, unless Rick and others come. But it looks like Putin is going to have a meeting with Trump, and it looks like they are going to have that in Budapest. So I don't know if you saw that. You'll probably be discussing that tomorrow with Jonathan and Ivan and everything. But it looks like he's trying to broker another peace deal, this time with Putin and ahead of the meeting with Zelensky tomorrow. But he just announced that as I was looking at news items over the last 15 to 20 minutes and everything. So he just announced that Trump did that he was going to be meeting with Putin in Budapest. So what's your take on this? Is he trying to broker another peace deal in another transactional deal, as you and Jatovi were talking about earlier?
I just learned from you about the possible meeting in Budapest between Trump and Putin. I don't know if it will take place, when it will take place, what will be discussed there. I don't understand that. I understand that tomorrow he's meeting Zelensky,
Yeah.
and
Apparently, he talked to Putin earlier today. That's when I found out about it. And now they're saying they're going to hold a second summit, but I don't see any things as to a concrete date like you're saying, at least not in the news shorts that I'm seeing.
okay. So what we know is that Putin called to Trump, or Trump called to Putin, one of two, and they discussed to have a possible meeting in Budapest. Is that all it was
That's
known?
it. And I think Trump called him, and then he said it was a very productive call.
He has for the last 9 months. He has all productive calls. Every call is productive. He's you never seen in your life as productive calls as Trump calls to Putin. They are the most productive calls. It's a mother of all productive calls. That's what it is. Any call between Putin and Trump. It's a mother of all productive calls. Good luck. Good luck. Keep calling. I have no problem with that.
They got to keep calling each other and everything like that. I didn't get to talk about it earlier, but I don't know because you're of the Jewish faith. I did go to a Catholic university, but I'm just trying to figure out what kind of reparations are they going to give to these young people, because apparently this was a big report that came out of the Vatican where they're basically saying that the ministers must be held, or the priests must be held accountable, and that they want to give some sort of reparations and some sort of payback for those that were abused by the Catholics, whether here or in other countries as well. So this came out yesterday because there was a protection of minors report that they put out, and they're proposing restorative measures against abuse. So they're saying that they are going to do reparations and tangible sanctions and everything like that. So what all this means, you got any theories?
No, it's hard for me to say. What is it? $50,000 will do to each kid, or 75, or maybe 15,000. Whatever is agreeable to both sides. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and the Catholic Church has got a lot of power, so they do have that kind of money. They probably could afford that kind of money to each victim, depending on how many victims and how far back they want to go and everything. But yeah, they've got a lot of money.
Exactly.
They've been a powerhouse for a number of years in terms of garnering money, like a lot of religions do and everything. But yeah, they probably could afford that kind of money. But who knows whether they would do that, or maybe it would be something like a few $1,000s. Who knows?
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll learn about it pretty soon, I guess.
Yeah, we'll learn about it soon as it goes along and everything like that. So they're saying that a secret fleet of ghost ships are moving Russian oil, and that could enter Trump's crosshairs as well. So they're saying that they've been stealing Ukrainian grain, and apparently it's a link to the Assad regime out of Syria and everything. So I guess they're saying that they have been having some pirate activities where the Ukrainian grain has been stolen and everything. So maybe Trump will have to have another call, this time to the Syrian leader.
Okay, Trump, he's very good with his phone calls, I guess. And like all day he needs to do something. He's the president of the United States, the largest, richest country in the world. So at least if he travels, obviously to only the richest countries in the world, like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Emirates. He doesn't travel to any other countries. He doesn't need to. Well, maybe sometimes King of England. Okay, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Uh, so at least he can do phone calls. Okay, here is Putin, here is Zelensky, here is somebody else. Maybe occasionally Macron, maybe Starmer, maybe somebody else. Okay, he has a great time, and in between phone calls, he's playing golf,
Oh,
so
yes.
his day is pretty busy.
Yeah, between the golf games and the phone calls, yeah, he's keeping busy and everything. Hopefully, his golf game has gotten better because he's had a lot of time to practice and everything. I can't remember, Sasha. Do you have? I know you and your wife have kids, but I can't remember if y'all have grandkids and everything. If you have grandkids, what is up with these young people and everything? Because it seems like all over the world they are just up in arms and protesting, whether they're being paid, as you were theorizing, to protest, or whether they're doing it on their own. But it seems like these folks that are in their 20s, which is a generation or two away from me and everything, are just like having all kinds of protests around the world and everything. So they're even saying that they're risking their lives to protest. So what's up with Gen Z, and why they wanted to be out in the streets?
Well, my grandchildren, they're studying in universities here
Mm.
in Ontario, in Canada, and my granddaughter, she's becoming a scientist, and
Okay.
is involved in bioengineering and that type of stuff. I'm not familiar really what she's studying, but she loves it a lot, and she's doing very well. And my grandson, he's involved in hockey, and he's studying business administration. So they're not protesting at all, and I would be very surprised if they would decide protest against what, and like where. What is it protesting? They're studying. That's what they have to do.
Mm.
Because the
Yes.
protesting is not going well with studying. It's something else. So if they want to protest, forget about studies and become professional protesters. At least make sure that you get paid, and if possible, well paid.
Mhm.
And okay, that's your new career. So you're a professional protester. Good luck.
Could be and everything. I won't know anything about that 'cause I don't have any kids of my own, but my brother has two kids and my two nephews. Neither one of them want to go into any of those fields. I think that you and Nick and other founders of the network will be proud of what they want to go into because they have friends that are in these fields. So I know that my older nephew wants to go into poli sci via law. So he wants to be kind of like somebody that helps find solutions and everything like that versus trying to not find solutions. So that's the field he wants to go into. And his younger brother, who's only a year younger, wants to be an engineer. And I think he wants to be a civil engineer. So I think that those are going to be some very good paying professions. They'll probably be more better paid than their media uncle and everything along those lines. But definitely it looks like they are heading in a good direction and is going even differently. Well, their mother ran a nonprofit and everything, or a trust fund. She ran the Golden Leaf Foundation and everything like that. And their dad was a professor, or their granddad was a professor. Their dad has been working with helping get at-risk youth out of gangs and stuff along those lines. So he's been very much active in that field. So they're probably going into fields that are even more lucrative than even their uncle, their dad, and their grandparents. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, agree.
That's a very good thing. So I'm glad that they're thinking about some good careers that are fairly lucrative and everything, particularly the one that wants to be an engineer and everything. I'm not sure
Yeah.
about the poli sci law because that can go either way depending on what kind of law and poli sci you decide to do. But engineers, I don't know many poor engineers at all. I'm sure there's some out there, but I don't know many that are poor. So I'm thinking the one that wants to be an engineer, good choice. What do you think?
I think it's a good choice. It's a very profession which is in demand all years, every time. There are not too many people. The entry barrier is quite high, so it's not something that you flipping hamburgers or anything like this. You are becoming really schooled in something, and it's very difficult to replace you or to find equivalent person who is as qualified as you are.
Yep. Hey, this is something interesting. Maybe y'all can talk about this tomorrow as well, and we'll wrap up in about another 5, 10 minutes or everything, unless you got particular things you want to talk about and everything. But apparently, because I know the show is called Ukraine, Russia, China, but apparently, G is directing quashing of Chinese feminists, is even as he praises advances in women's rights. So he's saying that they've got some good women's rights in there in China, even though he's stifling the activism. So he's hosting a summit on women's rights, even though historically China has not always done that well in terms of being fair to the fairer sex, if you want to use that term. But there's even an article from one of the Chinese publications saying China's effort to empower women wins praises, and they're saying that it's the motivation to the world and everything. But I had always heard that China was a repressive country to their women and everything like that. So what have you heard about China and their way they treat their women?
Okay, I want to tell you something that people in the West, including North America, they implying that all other societies, whether it's China or Russia or the Middle East or Latin America or anywhere in the world, would have to have the same standards as human rights are concerned as those in the West. That's completely wrong. All these societies are unique. They have their own code, and they are have to be left alone to maybe at some point to get where the Western civilization is and adopt all, or at least most of it, or some of it, to their societies. But this is a process which takes time, and you cannot imply that all they have to be same as the West, same human rights, same women's rights, or LGBTQ rights, or anything. Just don't assume that and not even try.
Yeah, and sometimes they even have different ways that they treat animals. Because I know that there were times that even some of the Asian society was doing things with some of the wildlife, particularly some of the fish, that some of the Western people complained about the way that they did their hunting, whether it was spearfishing or whether it was other things that, like you said, the West took offense to and everything like that. But they've been doing that style of hunting for decades, if not centuries. So what right do we have to tell them how to live their life? So I kind of agree with you on that aspect and everything like that. But we do sometimes try to interfere with people's lives and try to make them kind of conform to the Western way and everything like that. But I agree. Why are we doing that? They've been doing their way of living for a number of years.
Look, even when United States won a war in Iraq,
Hmm.
completely devastated the country, completely overrun it, ruled it, and so on. Were they able to build a democratic society in Iraq? I don't think so. They failed, although they had such superiority there for so many years. Now, if you're talking about China, have you already overrun China? You already control it. You already defeated the China. You already have Emperor Xi now in somewhere in jail in somewhere Long Island or San Francisco. No, you don't. So don't try to impose your rules on China. Don't even dream about it, please.
Yep, I agree with you. Can't do that, and he's not playing golf with Trump at Mar-a-Lago either. So maybe they'll play a game, or I know that some of the Chinese culture like other games. Maybe they're not into golf. Maybe then Trump will learn how to play badminton or what they call table tennis, and some of the other games that are very much very popular in some of the Asian countries. Maybe he'll even learn how to play cricket. So he might even learn to play some other games other than golf and all along those lines. But I don't think that he would do well in any of those games because they would master it and probably defeat him. Just like I've heard rumors that he's supposed to be decent in chess, but I think that you would probably win in like about 7 moves maybe against Trump. I don't think that you're going to have a hard time playing Trump in chess based on what I've seen you and Ken Regan and Dan Fleetwood teach us on a regular basis on your chess show. So I don't think that y'all would have a hard time defeating Trump. But maybe he's going to fool us, and maybe he and Byron, his son, are chess masters that I'm not aware of. Because I did hear at one point that he was supposed to be having some sort, or he claimed to have some sort of ranking or be good in chess. But I know you've been at the game for decades, so I don't think that you would
I
have
love
a.
the game. I don't have any particular goals, especially at this age where I'm now. But even when I was younger, I didn't have any goals to become a grandmaster. Although I had a couple of titles. For example, I'm when I was serving in the army.
Mhm.
Um, it was in Odessa district. I became a champion, chess champion of Odessa district, and there were a few strong masters who were playing in this championship, and I was first. And then, quite recently, about 8 years ago, I became co-champion of Canadian seniors championship,
Okay.
and the other co-champion was my wife. We shared first and second prizes in
Was
this.
that the tournament? Was that the tournament that Milan does in Collingwood? Was that in that tournament, or was
No,
that in another?
no, it was well before he started this championships. It was not far from Toronto in the city of Guelph. Actually, this is where my granddaughter is studying in the
Mhm.
Guelph University. So that was a champion. There were quite a few people from Canada, from United States, because it was like an open seniors championship. So we shared first and second prize.
It sounds like a good thing to do and everything like that. Speaking of Toronto, are you feeling better about your baseball team and everything like that? Because they were down 2-0, but they did go to Seattle and win a game. So maybe they'll be able to make a comeback and everything like that because they still have a win at least one game in Seattle and force it back to Toronto, but they're not out of the woods or out of the picture yet, and it might have made making the road to a comeback since they were down
God
zero
bless,
two.
God bless them. I don't follow that game at all. So I wish them all the luck. But
I know
that's
that's
about
right.
it.
Wishing them luck and everything. Just another light story, and then we'll get ready to get out of here and everything. We'll do
Yeah.
this as one of the 30-minute shows and everything, but just lightly. And I've teased about animals before, but since you're here, I'm going to tease again and everything. What the heck are we doing wrong with the bears and everything? Because apparently they're saying that Japan bear attacks are at a record high. So they had 7 people killed this year just in Japan, and they're definitely saying that another possible victim is reported missing. So are like people in Japan and people in the U.S. just like seeing big black bears and deciding that they want to go try to rub them, even though they can tell that those are big animals, mammoth animals, and they probably don't need to be messing with them. So what's going on with these bear attacks? And most bears, from what I understand, and wild animals in general, they're not going to attack you unless you provoke them.
Yeah, that's exactly, in my opinion, what's happened. Probably people were trying to take advantage of this little bears, and there were consequences. The bears probably didn't read their minds properly, that they were trying to be friendly, but the bears probably couldn't understand that really well. So they have to avoid bears, I would suggest, if they want to stay alive. Why do you need
Yep.
bears?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It looks like the feds are seeking an indictment against former Trump advisor John Bolton. So that just came down in the news. So he was his ex-national security advisor. So it does look like he has this enemy list, whether it's Letitia James or Bolton or others that he is definitely going after, all along those lines. And definitely they're even saying that some folks are asking the Republicans to go after Lawler because of something that the young Republicans did with this texting scandal where they were making some racist chats and everything like that. So it ought to be interesting seeing how this all plays out and everything along those lines, because definitely we still got that government shutdown, but they're still targeting each other even in the middle of the government shutdown.
Well, I would I would be very interested to listen to Shakil's opinion whether Trump is vindictive and trying to just get people paid for whatever the reasons that they were against him for, whether politics or any other way or so on. And interestingly enough, what Shakil will answer, he will say that this is the, how is it called, radical Democrats, that
Right.
that's what they did. No, it's not radical Democrats. It's a radical Trump and his Republican people, including this lawyers or so on. Where he finds these lawyers who can put these deals. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's very incredible. I'm thinking Shaquille's not going to be here on Saturday anywhere in the States. I mean, he just said that he had surgery earlier in, I believe it was Australia, wherever he's staying at to this particular day, since he never said where he was exactly at when he was here earlier this morning and everything. But I do know that this weekend, because I have some friends that are going, I won't be there because I've got work going on at my cultural arts center and everything. But I do have friends and maybe even some family members that are going to these No King protests around the country. I'm thinking Trump's not going to. I mean, I'm thinking Shaquille won't be at any of these No King protests. What do you think? I don't think that he's going to be at any of them, even if he had access to his jet, because I do know he has access sometimes to private planes and everything like that. But even if he had access, I don't think he's coming to Minnesota or Charlotte or Raleigh or New York or any of these other places that might be having No King protests.
Why would he come? What purpose? Why would he come to this?
Yeah, maybe just to join it.
Some business deals, maybe he would consider to come, but just to for protests themselves, he can see it on TV.
That's true. He can watch it from the TV, and he can also watch the things going on with the military in terms of the government shutdown and the military going to the different cities and states, whether that's Chicago, whether that's California. He can watch all that on TV. I agree. He can watch it on TV. He doesn't have to come here and partake in it and everything like that. I know you're a betting man. This is the last question I'm going to ask you. Are we going to? Halloween is coming up. Halloween is the 31st. I've heard you and Jacoby's and others say that you think it'll be done by November 1st, which is in about 2 weeks and 2 days and everything like that. So do you think that we're going to see an end to the shutdown before then, or is the shutdown going to go to the 1st of 2026?
I hope it will go into 2026. I really think if Democrats are smart, this is the only time in the last several months where they hold the Republicans by their testicles, and they cannot do anything. As I said earlier today, they have to get on their knees, apologize, kiss the asses, and then the shutdown will be over. But that's the only thing what they have to do.
I agree with you. But Well, this has been a fun conversation. Like I said, when we don't have the rest of the gang, it's about a 30-minute show and everything, but still a good conversation. I'm glad to see you popping in so we could have our fun conversation and laugh with each other and enjoy each other's company and not necessarily yell at each other the way that some of these shows go. But it was fun having this conversation, and I'll see you in the morning for both of the Russia, Ukraine, China show as well as for our regular world edition.
Okay. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Bye bye.
Bye.